Well, look who's back from Senate Homeland Security, Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, it's good to see you. So what do you make of this story? The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked until March 13th that new Texas law letting the state arrest illegal immigrants and deport them. It's so the high court can make a determination. Texas Governor Abbott says he's not backing down. Which way do you think the court will go?
Well, I hope it supports state sovereignty. I hope it supports governors who are trying to protect their own citizens when the president of our country is not doing so. So that's the way I hope it'll go. I fear, because it is true that it's the federal government that is really in charge of securing our borders and our immigration laws. The problem is we have a president that's not faithfully executing the law. We have a Secretary of Homeland Security that hasn't done so as well. So the governors have to step up the plate, and I truly appreciate what governors like Governor Abbott are trying to do to protect their citizens. You know,
Senator, the original judge, the federal judge that initially blocked the Texas law, he says it could open the door to each state passing its own version of immigration law. That seems like a kind of a misread. Let me back up. Let's think about this glaring contradiction for a second. So the White House and Democrats argue that only the federal government controls all state borders, right? But then they argue U.S. states can each block or override federal election law, letting each state decide whether to ban Trump. Do they get the hypocrisy and the duplicity here?
You're expecting me to be surprised at Democrat hypocrisy? Of course not. But listen, I do believe it's the role of and the responsibility and duty of every elected official to protect the citizens that they represent, and that includes governors as well. So to me, this is just basic, fundamental good government that a governor does need to protect the citizens of his state, and that's what Governor Abbott's trying to do.
You know, so Texas is saying under the U.S. Constitution invasion clause, any state has a right to defend their border's integrity. The federal government under the Constitution, it looks like they're derelict in their duty to protect the border states like Texas from a ground invasion. Therefore, the state, Texas, is required to honor their oath of office, protect its constituents, right?
I agree. And this is an invasion. I know we're not supposed to say that. This is an invasion. When you contemplate, for example, all the Chinese men of military age, they're massing down there in the Darien Gap and coming to this country. The number of people on the terror watch list that we've caught, that doesn't consider how many have come through as part of the known or unknown gotaways. This is obviously a clear and present danger, but what's really depressing about this is how the federal government, the Biden administration, is paying for this, that is facilitating this through money going to these non-governmental organizations. These flights coming in here, more than 300,000 people just flown into this country using the Biden administration's app to circumvent our laws. So this isn't getting the coverage it really deserves in the mainstream media. It's certainly not, as a result, producing the public outrage that we should be experiencing based on this invasion.
You know, Senator, the other thing, too, is the White House keeps saying they're all about border security. You're going to hear White House spokesman John Kirby admit President Biden did not meet his Border Patrol chief until last Thursday. You're going to hear this. Watch.
The president's engaged with the DHS. He's engaged with leadership there.
But why not the Border Patrol?
He's engaged with the Border Patrol. Martha, he was just down there at Brownsville meeting and talking to those folks directly and hearing from them about the situation on the ground.
Or current chief. The current chief he just met, he's been president for 3 years, just met him the other day.
He again is engaged with everybody at DHS, including the Border Patrol, down there at Brownsville, talking to him on the ground.
Okay, you see that he dodged it. He didn't meet him until Thursday. Raul Ortiz, the former Border Patrol chief under Biden, told 60 Minutes he never talked to President Biden and Vice President Harris in the 2 years he was on the job.
Well, President Biden has lied repeatedly to the American public on a full range of issues, including the border, saying that, since day one he's been asking Congress to fix this. No. President Biden and his Democrat colleagues in Congress, they want an open border. They caused this process. President Biden used the exact same authority that President Trump used to close the border to open it up. Republicans are eager to strengthen that authority if President Biden wants it, but that's not what they were negotiating. They were negotiating political cover for Democrats in Congress, who again want an open border.
Got it. Senator Johnson, thank you so much. It's good to see you.